In progress.
Hey, folks are arriving. I say we give folks a minute to continue in. What do you say, Sonia? Welcome, everyone. We're going to start in just a moment.
100. I cannot see myself here, right? Can I? No.
I see you.
Yeah, I see you too.
Ah, here I can see Holly. Yes. How are you, Holly?
I'm well. I'm excited to talk to you, Jakob. And I'm excited when Sam arrives.
Thanks for inviting me.
I say we begin.
Let's
Hey,
go.
welcome, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. Welcome to Reaching New Buyers, How to Sell Your Fine Art Photography. By the way, I'm Holly Hughes, and I'm delighted today to talk with Magnum photographer Jakob Sobol and Samantha McCoy, director of Magnum's Paris Gallery. Directed at emerging photographers, this event today is the third in a series of 3 free online seminars featuring Magnum photographers and presented in partnership with Squarespace, the all-in-one website building and e-commerce platform. We'll have time at the end for Jakob and Sam to answer questions. So please feel free to drop those questions in the Q&A box as we go along. Sonia Genet, Education Director at Magnum Photos, will be moderating the questions at the end of the presentation. And we'll be sending you all a recording of this seminar tomorrow for you to refer to in the future. And so with that, I'm happy to start talking to Jakob. Hi, Jakob.
Hey, Holly.
Some of you, like me, probably know Jakob through his work, through his books, his award-winning books like Sabine and I, Tokyo. His work is represented in galleries in France and other places, in Holland, around the world. His work, he's exhibited his limited edition fine art prints in galleries and in international festivals. He's also selling his books and his images as posters on his website. And Jakob, you seem to enjoy selling your work in this way. Why is that?
It's wonderful. I mean, I love, first of all, I love to sell. I love to do business as well. When I was a kid and I was asked what I wanted to be, I always replied, I want to be a businessman. So, and I think that, of course, you might think that being an artist is something completely different from being a businessman. But the combination of creating strong artwork and actually being able to sell it is a very strong combination, of course. And this is what I've been practicing for some years, to start to sell online directly to the customer. I started back in 2016 with Squarespace and started to build this store that I have online now. It's been going really well. I mean, here at home, my wife and our 2 kids, every time there's an order coming through Squarespace, we have a small celebration, because we know that how important it is also for our economy and our daily life, pay our rent and buy what we need, that we are making these sales online. So I found out that usually publishers, I mean, we know that in the art world, the publishers don't pay the artist royalties, or, I mean, in most cases, at least, they don't pay royalties. And if they do, it's very small. So if you have the option of making a good deal on your own books, you can also sell them on your own website. You can sell them signed, as other people or other stores might not be able to do. You can sell what we are doing, and we are selling these small pigment prints that is without an edition. Pigment prints is inkjet prints, so it's printed by a printer, a machine, and it's, for me, completely different from the gallery print, which is a gelatin silver print, where most buyers will be at the gallery to inspect the print. That is a completely different price level. Maybe it's 4,000 or 5,000 euro for a print, but if you do an online sale to a large audience, and you want to reach an audience that is not only the collectors, but also people like you and me, you can sell prints that are more affordable. And just the idea that people have these small prints on the wall at home that my wife and I spend time on creating here ourselves, and framing them and writing a little message to the customer, sending them out, packing them, and sending them to the customers, all with love, because it's something that we love to do. It's amazing that you don't have to compromise on this. You don't have to go out and do work that you're not interested in, but you can make it part of your lifestyle, that everything you do when it comes to your work and
Right.
the things you try to sell, that you do it with love. Yeah.
What do you know about some of the people who buy your posters, or where they are? Do you know stuff like that through your website?
Yes, I mean, there are statistics that can tell us where people come from. For example, geographically, you can see that since we started in 2016, we have sold to more than 100 countries in the world. And you can see where your main customers are, in what country you are selling well, and in what countries you're not selling well. And you can also adjust your sale. So if you might want to choose to sell a product that is not that expensive, and you will see that many more different countries will go and buy your product, your book, or booklet, or what it is. And for us, that's very exciting, that it's not the same 5 countries where all the buyers are, but you can also reach an audience that would be impossible to reach in other ways.
How do you and your wife Sarah handle all of the shipping, the shipping of the products, the fulfillment of orders?
For me, it's an important thing to stay grounded in the way that before, I used to have to work with interns in my studio who also did a lot of the packing and so on. But now we have made it into a small family business, right? My wife and I, we are doing everything. Also a bit with the kids. The kids are not big enough yet. One of them is a baby, but still, I mean, it's a matter of making it into something that is a pleasureful as well. So you put on some music and you start to pack your books. That part of it is almost as exciting as doing the editing of the book, because the thought of someone actually went to your website and looked at your books and said, I want to spend I want that book. I want to spend 75 euro to order that book and have it shipped to me. I mean, for me, every time it happens, it's a gift. It's exciting. Yeah, I'm looking at.
So you kind of connect with your customers. You're writing notes or things like that when you're.
And in some cases, we are also chatting. I have to be careful what I say. We are also chatting online sometimes, and people send me pictures of how they hung their posters, where they put their print, and so on. And I love it. I mean, it's amazing to see that someone actually wants your print on the wall in their living room or in their bedroom, and so on. That's for me, it's a big part of it. And it's also something that you can use to show to other customers on the social media and so on, how other people have used the posters or the prints you're selling and so on.
I'm curious, any surprises about your customers? Or I was quite touched when you said there's somebody bought several posters and showed you, I think, how they put multiples up around them in their home. Any other surprises about, I don't know, what's most popular or how people buy or what they buy?
Well, it's great to see that, for example, the posters is selling really well. And why is that? It's because when you are, I think it's important to distinguish between a poster and a print, for example.
Yeah.
So what we do with the posters is that we have a text that has there's a title of the picture, and there's a white frame and so on. So it actually looks like a poster. Because what is the difference of something that you are printing on your inkjet printer, and it might be a different paper and so on, but in the end, it's an inkjet print that is coming out. So it's important that you make it look like a poster, and then you are able to sell it at less expensive. And then with your prints, you're using a more fine art paper that has archival quality. Is important, right? That it doesn't start to get yellow or something after a few months and so on. So of course, these basics need to be there. In that way, you can sell different. You can have different price levels and so on. And one thing I experienced with the posters, and one good thing as in selling posters, is that your expenses are pretty low compared to the books. The books have a high level of expenses when it comes to printing and binding and shipping and so on. But posters, you don't have that many expenses when you print at home, and you can send them directly to your customer, and you might have a profit of let's say 90% of the sale price. Whereas for a book, it might be 50%.
Yes.
So, and for me, it's great to experience that people also start to make small exhibitions at home. Yeah, they send me a picture now. Okay, some people order 4 or 5 posters, and they put them up beside each other or make their own little exhibition, and that's possible only because you are selling at an affordable price with these posters.
I noticed recently going to your website that your brand new book appears big and bold on the homepage. I'm just curious, how often do you update your site, or how do you decide that it's a good time to change the site?
I mean, obviously, when you have a new product, it's you would be launching that, and it's also important. The way we have been doing it a lot is not to build it up too much, but also have some kind of surprise element in. Okay, there's a new book coming out, and I haven't published a book for 4 years maybe, so that there's an element of surprise in when we are launching the book and so on. And then we try to of course use this different social media platforms to push the product, and also with a newsletter. It's important, and you will see again that the sales come in. We are following that, of course. especially from the newsletter, there's an immediate reaction often to the orders in Squarespace. And with social media, it sometimes takes a bit longer. People need to share it and so on, and to spread the book in that way.
So just to clarify, I say this as a subscriber to your newsletter. Your newsletter comes in, it has new photos and links in it, and that you can tell that you immediately get orders that you're then fulfilling.
Oh yeah, it's I mean, we're
and it's party time. You've made sales, so it's time to have a party.
I mean, maybe it's a book you have been working on for years, right? You invested a lot in this, and so of course it's a very exciting moment for you to launch the book. And yeah, in the beginning you would see when you can follow the orders come in within minutes and so on, and that's yeah, it's a small celebration every time you have an order, because this is what you have been working for so long, right? And I mean, there are also many statistics on Squarespace that I have been using. Like you can see, for example, how many or which products are most popular. So
oh yeah,
there's a kind of a listing to see what products has sold the most, and you can also see actually how many people are visiting to look at that product, and then the percentage of those actually ending up buying the product. So in this way, you can also see, is my product sellable? I mean, if there's less than 1% going to look at that product, at that book or that post and so on, if it's less than 1% buying it, maybe there's something wrong with the price or on the post.
oh I see.
And you know what I mean? And then you have other, like where you have almost 1/3 or 50% buying the book after looking at it online. So these statistics tell you also about how popular your products are, and if there are any corrections to be made in that. There was one more thing that yes, you can also see who your main customers are. This is also one thing I've been excited. So you can press to see who spent the most money in your store.
Oh,
From number.
An individual customer, and you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
know that they're like a fan of yours who's bought multiple times. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, you can see you can also see how many orders they placed during the years. So basically you can make this top 50 of your best customers, or top 10 or top 20 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they might want some special treatment or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or also what I mean, if we have a delay for some reason, sometimes we are traveling or we are somewhere else and we are not able to pack and ship, we tend to add a small gift to our customers.
Like what? What can I get as a gift if I'm become one of your customers?
Well, it depends. I mean, in some cases we add a postcard, and in other cases we add a catalog or something. It's nice to know that there is another person receiving this and having this little surprise on top of what they ordered. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really sweet. It hadn't really occurred to me that you're sort of connecting with and getting to know the people who are interested in your books and your posters and your images.
Yeah, I think it is a way to connect, also because as an artist you are a lot alone, right? I mean, you are a lot in your head, and you're working on your project and so on. And now so many things are online and so on. So how do we connect with our audience this way as well? So for me, it becomes very personal the package I'm sending, also the book I'm sending. That's what I'm giving the customer, or what they are buying, right?
You've mentioned, of course, that a book takes years worth of work. Can you talk a little bit about the balance of your time, like how you go about creating the work, how much time goes into all the other things that are required of a photographer, and how much goes into this sort of marketing, sales, packaging, fulfillment, all that other stuff?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you need to feel excitement about it, right? I mean, if it's hell for you to do marketing or to do packing, or I mean, then there's a problem, right? Then maybe you should not do it. I mean, or maybe you should work with someone else to do it, and so on. I think it's an important part of it that you actually feel an excitement about selling what you're creating. For me, it doesn't live if there's no one to receive it in the other end. I wanted to get out to share it with the world. That's the whole point of also creating these images, is to share them with other people, to share these intimate moments with the world. That's the connection. So for me, that's a whole package. Your question was something completely else, but I just got caught up with this, and there was, but it's a matter of putting love into everything you do.
I see.
So, but I'm not saying that my life is always great. I can also be depressed and have a horrible day. But your question was
About the balance of time.
the balance of time. Yeah, and right now my kids are my first priority.
Okay.
And now my latest book is published, but yeah, of course it's a challenge to keep a good balance. But if you need some space and time to invest in what you're building, right?
Hmm.
If you jump from place to place all the time, or you're too obsessed about making money somewhere else, you do not have the time and space to build something where you can make money from your artwork, actually.
By the way, I just want to compliment you. I think it's nice that you show how a print can be displayed. It's just a nice idea for
Oh yeah, you see
for
on the
what you're
cover,
selling here.
yeah, I mean, I don't know who has a home that clean as that one, but but yeah, here you see also on the book that we are selling with a print. Then I have this small box made with name and title engraved, and people can buy the book with a print, and so on. Actually, that's important to remember, that when we are selling books, I don't make that much money on books, right?
Sure.
But the profit is the print. If you can add a print to your book and sell it either in the book or in a small box beside, that's where you will find a more reasonable profit for you as an artist.
I guess I should mention, so this whole set, for example, I see on your website, that is a little different. That's 250 euro that you're selling that for.
Yeah.
It's, and I do want to get into this because you've mentioned distinguishing the different products you sell, distinguishing what your gallery is marketing as limited edition prints, what you're selling. You have a collectors page on your website, and there's a few things on there. Can you explain a little bit about what's reserved for that collectors page?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to have on the website I mean, it needs to be kept as simple as
Yeah.
possible, right? As few clicks as possible, so you don't lose your customer on the way. So if collector's items is something that is obviously more rare and more expensive, so it's either a special edition of a book with a print. I also have a book dummy, for example, which
Mhm.
which is a dummy, like a dummy of a book.
Like a maquette,
Yeah,
we
that
would
I've
also say.
and that but that is priced much higher. So I make sure also to have some rare objects that that potential collectors will be very interested in. So you have some products that try to reach different audiences, right?
Mhm. Mhm. I think next we're gonna look at some. Oh, by the way, when was this was for your 46th birthday? Happy birthday? Or
Oh
was
yeah,
it?
yeah. It's become a tradition that we have this poster sale on my birthday, and so the price goes up €1 for each year.
Okay,
So,
almost handle
so
inflation.
when I'm 99, it would be the best price. But so once a year we have this poster sale, yeah, and maybe a poster is usually priced at a signed poster we price at €75, and then once a year people have this option of buying a poster for only 46 or 47, or how many years I am at that point. And the good thing about this is that you have of course you have, then you might have 10 times as many orders as you usually have for a period of time, and you know that these couple of days you will be printing posters. So
I
you
see.
maybe you will be printing 50 posters from orders that came from this one sale, right? But it's also important to think about not to do too many sales.
Right. If I understand you, when I was asking how often you update it, it's not that it's time consuming to update your website. It's like you're thinking about the right time that you can fulfill orders, the right time that you have something new to sell, the right time for to
Yeah,
them to
I'm
book it.
trying to be creative about it all the time, as creative as I am when I create my pictures. I mean, it's another part of the brain you need to use, of course. But be for me, it's exciting to look at how can I be creative in my next sale. Sale. What am I going to sell? How am I going to do it? What am I going to post? How is the newsletter going to look? And try to come up with the new ideas of what we can be selling and how. Um,
Mhm.
I think this is also the list you see here is kind of like, yeah, like a top 10 list
Uh-huh.
of the product best selling products.
From
And
from the when you first launched your site. So it's over a long period of time.
yeah, over the whole since 2016. And but you can see that the prints are those that give the most profit. uh,
Uh,
they sell more at a fairly expensive price. um
let me see. I think we might have another statistic. Whoops, sorry. But let me just ask, I'm curious, as Sam joins us, how often do you check these website analytics? And do you find them easy? You're a wannabe business person. Do you enjoy looking at them, Jakob?
I mean, I'm first of all an artist.
Yes,
uh,
I understand.
so it's not like I wake up and I say, shit, I'm gonna check the numbers. But it's a very it's an important part of if you choose a life where you want to live from your art only. I mean, then when I made that choice, I knew that I would have to be able to sell myself. And when the online possibilities came, and when I found Squarespace, for example, then I found that it was much easier for me to have my own store. Why would I sell through
A bookstore or
bookstore or other places that take 40-50%, and you end up with no profit when you can sell directly with your to your customers. And yeah, it might put some other people under pressure who are used to sell your things. I don't know, but that's okay. In the end, the publishers, the galleries, and so on. I have to be careful.
well, they're selling. Well, they're selling. You were,
No,
welcome,
but
welcome,
they
Sam.
they
Hi, Sam. Welcome.
Oh, Sam is here. Okay.
Sam, welcome. Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you again. And
I
thanks.
seem I came in at just the right moment.
Sam is here.
Before you were on, Jakob, whose work has, whose limited edition prints are sold in galleries, and has been shown at photo festivals, was talking about how he distinguishes the different products he sells, how he distinguishes collector's editions of his book, collector's editions or regular editions of his book, how he distinguishes posters from the fine art prints. But so with all of your, I'm going to be showing some pictures of the beautiful Magnum gallery while you talk, and we're going to get to peek at some exhibitions that you've curated at the gallery. But I guess I just want to ask, so to explain these terms that Jakob and I have been tossing around, can you just explain what the gallery is selling? Can you explain how photos are editioned and what an edition is?
Of course, yes. And hi, Holly and Jakob and everyone. And I'm very sorry to have missed the first part. I'm looking forward to the recording. I just got off the train in London from Paris, and everything was delayed. So I suppose what we define as limited edition prints. I mean, the technology, I'll try to be brief because I know we don't have a ton of time, but the technology of or the terminology of prints really came of photographic prints is diverse, and I think it's important to keep in mind that it's constantly evolving and that different people have different interpretations of what terms mean, and these terms themselves, just like vocabulary and dictionaries, are again constantly evolving. I mean, the limited edition notion is rather straightforward in the sense that you are obliged to, it's kind of a promise to the market that you are only going to print X number of prints of any given image in a given format. And open edition means that you are going to, you don't need to be held accountable, and you can print as many prints of this given image in a given format as you want. And no, if somebody tomorrow says, well, how many have you made just until now? You can say, I'm not, you don't have to say, I don't know, but you can say, this is not it's an open edition print. That is the situation. Was there another part of the question that I might have forgotten?
So just to explain, so in other words, when a collector buys a numbered limited edition print, it's kind of like you, the gallery, and the artist has guaranteed that there'll never be more of those images at that size in that format.
Exactly.
And so imagine, well, in your career as directing galleries and representing photographers, I mean, sometimes photographers sign with a gallery and they have sold a print here, traded a print with a friend here. What do you need to know about those sales and distributions when you first start representing a photographer?
Ideally, as much as possible, and that's why I think it's really, especially at the beginning of a photographer's career, because I think the thing is that a lot of photographers for many years didn't have this kind of information, right? And so but I think if you can start as soon as you can, as soon as you're able to keep track of every print, basically, that you're that you're making, that you consider a fine art print that's going to be signed in one way or another. If you do plan on editioning, it's better. It's just it becomes tricky. It becomes more difficult down the line if you've been printing and selling here and there to then create an edition. You can do it, but it's not necessarily completely honest with the market if you're doing, and then later on it can become problematic. You can get a reputation as somebody who's not serious about, if it basically signals to collectors that, okay, oh yeah, I thought I was paying, this amount of money for this 3 of 15 prints. But then, you see these prints come up at auction that are not editions in the same format. Why should I pay? What is the edition there for? So it's better to, as soon as you can, kind of keep track of this information. And if you haven't yet, it's not the end of the world, but I think it's just, and I'm talking about signed prints that are in a designated format, right? I'm not talking about just printing a print to kind of test out a series or not. I'm talking about what fine art print.
I do want to talk a little bit about, or hope we get a chance to talk about, the gallery as kind of a gathering place and a kind of community for the collectors and people learning about photography. But when the Paris gallery opened and you were interviewed by ArtNet, you did say that photography seems to be a medium that people feel comfortable buying online. Is that even true of the collectors who are really interested in provenance and buying an exquisite, expensive open edition print, limited edition print? So.
It really depends. I think that there are I think we're talking about two different marketplaces, really. I think we have to look at online like its own location, just as Paris and London, New York. Online is its own location with its own, people who go online to acquire work. There are certainly serious collectors who acquire work online who, are willing to just kind of click and buy, and for one reason and another, don't even, not interested in anything else. You reach out to them and they know what they want, and they proceed in that fashion. It's a different, I don't think online replaces galleries or in-person art fairs, or it's a different location and it's a different public. And I think there are a lot of serious, collectors, a lot of collectors, period, institutions, which are another very important, aspect of the art world, that are not going to go online. They'll be going online to look at, what you're doing, what you're working on, but they're not going to go online to click and buy, a limited edition print. It's going to be a luxury.
It's a luxury purchase. To me, I would be wanting to know everything about that product before I, invested that money.
And maybe, there's seasoned collectors who they already know who the photographer is. They already know Jakob's work, for example. They already know how editions work. They already know everything. And so, why I'm just going to go online and buy it. That makes sense. But I wouldn't say it's everyone by, it's a different public.
I know we have a lot of questions and Sonia is sifting through them, but just before and a reminder to the audience to go ahead and put their questions in. But something you said, Sam, made me think of a question about collectors wanting to know a lot about the photographer, or this as a kind of investment purchase. We've been talking to art directors and we've been talking about the importance of a website for a photographer, and why, like, art directors at ad agencies look at photographers' websites, photo editors look at photographers' websites. are collectors of photography looking at a photographer's website? Do you, as a gallery person representing photographers, think it's useful for photographers to have a place like a website where people can find you?
Definitely. I mean, I think a website, these days is like a business card in the sense that, but more, right? If you are trying to, put your work out there in any way, I think, you want to say, I represent X person. And, there is the, from a gallery standpoint, I mean, once you're represented by a gallery at a certain point, the work should be on the gallery website, but still, people are still going to go to the artist's work website also, because it's going to be more, it's going to be more complete. So it certainly needs to exist in one form or another. I think that's in many cases it's almost a red flag. I think if you don't see any kind of presence online or with no website, not a red flag. That's perhaps not the right term, but it's a signal. Okay.
Yeah. I remember the gallery director who first gave Khalik Allah a show, and saying that someone had recommended Khalik to him. He's now a Magnum photographer, but this was a few years ago. And the gallery director, like poured through Khalik's website to like really study all the bodies of work before he'd ever had an exhibition. But sorry, I don't want to talk too much because the audience has many questions for you. Sonia, questions for Jakob and Sam?
Yes, thank you. So lots of questions. So one that comes back quite a few times, and that's more for Jakob. But if you could share, Jakob, your perspective on selling your work online versus having a gallery, something that we've talked a bit about as well before preparing, because you still have a gallery.
Yeah,
Yes.
how do you make the two work together? You were mentioning that has been something you've done. Do the two at once. Go, can you talk about
Yeah.
that?
I make sure that there's a clear difference between what I'm selling with my galleries and what I'm selling in my own store online. So, for example, with my galleries, I'm selling editioned gelatin silver prints. These are hand printed. These are the real kind of artwork that only has there's a max of 10 prints of any of these images printed on gelatin silver in a traditional darkroom. These are the prints that the galleries are selling for me. The prints I'm selling, I'm not really selling prints online. I'm selling a print with a book, for example, or I'm selling posters, or I do have like a yearly print sale, like Magnum has the square print sale as well. So these are small pigment prints that are printed by a machine, an inkjet printer. So for me, these are open edition. They are not limited to a specific number. So for me, this very clear difference between the two products makes it possible for me to do both. Now, some people might agree with this and some people might disagree. But I made a choice in my life that, I mean, as a family, we cannot live without the income that comes from my own store. I cannot live from gallery sale only because they don't sell enough.
Or book sales only, which is hard because book sales.
Yeah, I mean, who gets money from a book? No one. I mean, I don't. Maybe some do. I don't know. I don't get money from publishers. I buy my own books with a very good discount, and then I sell them signed.
Mhm.
That's my way of making money from my own books. But yeah, for the prints, I think that's I mean, one things are the rules of the art world and who puts up these rules and so on. But we also have artists that I mean we are faced with reality every day. How are you going to make a living as an artist? For some galleries, it can be even a prestige project to
Mhm.
sell photography, to have prints. They have a gallery, they have nice exhibitions and so on, but are they selling?
Yeah, a hard one.
So if the prestige project becomes if it becomes too much about that, then you need to look at, okay, maybe that's not the right place to be.
Thank you. Thanks, Jacob. I think it comes to, and this is maybe for both you and Sam, is lots of questions about how to know what is the right price for your artwork. So, and I know this is quite an extensive question, but if you could touch upon that a bit.
The right price. For me, it's always exciting because as an artist, you decide yourself what your artwork is worth, right? Actually, no one else can tell you. And it's not like you go to the supermarket and you buy a liter of milk and you know what it should cost. It's here you have a piece of art that you can sell it for 100 euro or you can sell it for 1 million. So how do you find the correct price? Again, for me, it's important to, as I talked about before, when you have the small inkjet prints like the Magnum square print, or you have edition gelatin silver print, the difference is obvious, and so should the price level be very different. So the cheaper print, you should be selling at a price where anyone could buy it. Not only collectors, but people who feel that this is an image I would love to have on my wall, and I can afford it like anyone else. Then your audience becomes 10,000 times bigger, because the collectors is a very small group of people who has more money.
Well,
So-
and I just want to point out, you've been looking at your different statistics and saying, oh, when I lowered the price of this, it was bought in countries where it previously hadn't sold and so on. But Samantha, what's your
Yeah, I mean, I think Jacob's totally right. I think there are a few things, and we've talked about this before, Holly. I mean, there are a few things I would say as guidelines. I mean, talking with looking at the market, right? Like if you need to just have an understanding of kind of where to start, look at what other people are kind of what the market seems to be for people with X amount of, experience sets. And I'm not saying everybody it is art, and it is, again, I think Jacob's completely right. You have to feel good about the price, but there should be you do want it to fit into the marketplace at some point, and in that sense, if you're selling your work for 80,000 euros, when it's the first print you've sold, you're going to have a problem. So I think, and along those lines, I always tell photographers to start low and go high. Don't go high and low, because once you set up in terms of books and posters, it's one thing. In terms of fine art prints, if you're trying to sell your work for 2,000 euros, and 5 years go by and you haven't sold anything, and you say, okay, now I'm gonna sell it for 1,000 euros, you're sending the wrong message to the market, and you're going to end up paying for it in one way or another. And it's just much better to start low, because you can always raise the price. but it's just very difficult to lower the price without seeing the repercussions in that way. So again, I would always say just start on the lower side without undervaluing your work. As Jacob also said, make sure that you're being that what you've paid, the time and the money that have gone into the production, that everything's been covered, that you feel like your work is adequately, that the price is feels good for you. But just, I don't be cognizant, I would say, of not starting too high.
Also, I feel it's important to, I totally agree. And I also feel it's important to have an edition that is not too, don't make an edition that is 50 or 100.
Completely, yeah.
It has to be max 10 in photography. As far as I know, at this point, max 10 prints of the same image in total of all sizes, right? Then it's attractive for collectors.
Yeah, I totally agree. I would say you could go a little bit higher, but you're totally right. You should be, especially when you're starting out, as kind of unique and one-off. You can, as much as you can give people the impression that what you're talking about, you're taking your work seriously, yeah. And B, you're serious. You're beyond authentic about what you're putting out there, and you're committed to it being somewhat of a limited piece. I think the better chances that you can sell that work. So I do totally agree.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking that if when you are selling print like gelatin silver prints with, let's say, an edition of 10, and your price is a couple of €1,000 and so on, you're not gonna sell all of them right away, right? It does take time. I don't know. I have several hundred different gelatin silver prints, and of course, some of them are sold out, but most of them are not sold out, of course. So there's no reason to make an edition of. It's better for you that you have some prints that are sold out, and collectors start to look at other works by you, than if you have 500 that with an edition of 20 or 30 or 50, and there's only a few of them sold.
I would totally agree. And just one thing, because I thought of it very quickly, but I was talking with a collector recently about this, and they said to me, they were looking at an Anne Golden print, from the 70s, and it was edition of 25, and they were like, I can't, that their number was 10 of 25 they were being offered, and they were just like, it's amazing to me that, to think that this the Ballad of Sexual Dependency, that there's 15 prints left in this edition. We're 50 years later. It goes to show you what kind of message you're signaling to, this was a serious collector, and they're picking up on these things.
That's interesting. Sonia, we have so many questions.
Yeah, so there's one question for Sam. Thank you so much for talking about editioning without me having to ask you, because that was a lot of questions around this. And then there was one question for Sam, which is, how do you suggest emerging artists, photographers approach galleries?
Yeah,
that's a good question and a hard question. I would suggest, this is going to sound, this is hard to say, but to focus on your work, really, to rather than focusing on trying to, to focus on your work, to focus on building a website, getting cohesive bodies of work out there, and being to talking about your work as much as you can. Galleries really don't like, and generally speaking, to be approached by artists. So it's this really hard kind of catch-22 of, what do you, how do you approach, if you can't approach anyone and you don't, what do you do? But I would say the more you can focus on your work, create a body of work that you feel good about, the more you can talk about it around people that and go to gallery openings, things kind of will fall together. I think maybe Jacob, you'll have a little bit more, from an artist perspective, feedback on that than I do. I can just say that, having worked at galleries for my entire career, and grown up really in a gallery too, there was always this kind of like, if somebody approaches you, unfortunately, it never happened that we were approached by an artist and we were like, oh yeah, that's great, we'll take you. And in fact, the reverse happened. So
could you, maybe this is off, but there's a connection between having a book come out and having a gallery show? I mean, it seems like galleries like that you have a book coming out, and publishers knowing you have a book coming out like to know that you have a gallery show, that there's sort of a connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being published is certainly, very important. And of course, in the photo world, the photo book has taken on an enormous significance. The two really do. I mean, it kind of comes down to marketing in a certain sense, where, if you have a book coming out and you have an exhibition coming out and the two aligned, it's more publicity, right? You can kind of have one that speaks to the other that helps sell the other. So it makes sense. Yeah. It's not obligatory, but it's really helpful when it happens. I mean, we had the exhibition that we just had at the Magnum Gallery, Deja Vu of Martin Parr and anonymous photography, vernacular photography, was the book came out a year ago. And we wanted to do the show. There's COVID, and anyway, we did the exhibit now. And I will say that, many more people bought the book than bought a fine art print. And in that sense, the exhibition was great to re-promote the book. So I didn't feel like, I did get a few like, oh, that's funny that the book came out a year ago, but nothing, nothing that was not.
No, there's such different contexts. It's really interesting. I was looking and thinking, oh, I would have loved to have gone to the Susan Meisel's Carnival Strippers thing. I know the book, I know that work. To see it in a gallery would be very different, but I interrupted.
Yeah, and then actually in that sense, we did because the Carnival Strippers was a republishing of the book, and it was a two-part. It was also the color work that hadn't been exhibited before, had never been exhibited. So in that case, we actually did try to align the book coming out, or the new edition with the show. It's great when it can work. I mean, of course, it's ideal when it can work. The reality, I think, is it depends. I mean, major powerhouse galleries, can also have their own editions, can publish the works while they can, have their whole other structure. If you're not part of that, very, very small circle, you do as much as you can. And if you can't, you can't, But I think having some sort of public, from some of the public material that's published is what I'm trying to say. Some sort of is important. To be honest, in the art world in general, but especially in photography, there's.
I guess it's also a good way to
sorry, I would just want to make sure we're not missing anybody's question. I didn't mean to throw out a question of mine that got so much discussion. Sonia, what's next? Because I want to hope we can get to a couple more questions.
So it's a question for Jacob, and it's really about your work itself. It's quite beautiful, and few people have asked it. Your work is so personal and vulnerable. So at what point you thought you were ready to start selling it? And do you know which was the first images you sold?
I'm not really ready to sell it. I will never be, and at the same time I'm doing it, but it's a dilemma, because on one hand it's very intimate and personal work, and on the other hand, I want to live as an artist. I want to live, and I want to share these intimate moments with the world, to connect with the world. And so the question was, when did I start to sell? I didn't start to sell my pictures, and that comes back to what Sam said before. Maybe I was approached by others who wanted or asked to sell my pictures. So for me, it's extremely important to say that, and maybe that's the best advice. I don't know if it's an advice, but experience I can give is to focus on your work. Because if you create a strong body of work, it will do all the work for you. If you go to a gallery with something that is not very strong or interesting and so on, I mean, they will just ignore you, and they will not talk with you, they will not meet with you, and so on. But if you focus on give yourself time and space to create a strong body of work, then if you publish a book with that work, it will do all the work for you. They will come to you.
That's lovely.
Thanks. That's it's a really beautiful answer, and also, since it is actually time, a really beautiful way to end the session. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you so much, Jacob. Thank you so much, Holly, for coming, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining today our Magnum Photos free online seminar. We really hope you learned a lot from Jacob and Sam. There's a lot of technical questions about printing and sizing, and I hope this was helpful. As Holly mentioned, we'll be following this seminar with the recording. You should receive an email on Monday, and you will also receive a few additional resources to help you get started. This year, Magnum Photos celebrated its 75th anniversary, and to mark this special event, we ran a special global program of exhibitions, talks, and online seminars in partnership with our friends at Squarespace. To access the recordings of all these 3 seminars and to see a selection of the work by Magnum photographers from the past 70 years, you can visit our anniversary website, which is magnumphotos75.com. Thank you, everyone, once again. Thank you, Squarespace, and thank you for a lot of you actually came back today and were present throughout these 3 seminars, and it's nice to see your names popping up again in the questions. Thanks.
Oh, nice. Thanks for those excellent questions. Thank you,
Thank
Jakob.
you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Sam. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to work with you, Sonia. Thank you.
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.